Welcome to the news. We take a look at stories making headlines. UPND President Hakainde Hichilema's special advisor, Major Richard Kachingwe, has resigned from the opposition political party. President Edgar Lungu has been urged not to be selective in the fight against corruption. And one member of parliament and former National Democratic Congress consultant Chimba Kambwili is expected to appear before the police in Lusaka on Monday, 25th February 2019. And now the news in detail. The opposition UPND President Hakainde Hichilema's special advisor, Major Richard Kachingwe, has resigned from the opposition political party following allegations by the party and its alliance partners that his son, Mpange Kachingwe, has been trained by the Patriotic Front, a PF party, to assassinate politicians. A photography of a PF cadre said to be Major Kachingwe's son attacking his UPND counterpart with a pistol in his hand has gone viral on both social and mainstream media. But Major Kachingwe has refuted reports that the man in the picture in question is not his son, Mpange. Major Kachingwe has admitted that his son, who is a civil engineer by profession, belongs to the Patriotic Front, a PF party, but he was quick to mention that his kind of membership is that of an intellectual and not a mere cadre. The former MMD Secretary General says his separation from the UPND follows the failed efforts to engage with Mr. Hichilema, who has been avoiding to meet him over the matter. Meanwhile, Major Kachingwe rubbished allegations that President Edgar Lungu is training a militia. Major Kachingwe has wondered how a man who has all the defense peripherals under his charge can waste time and other resources to train a militia. He has also warned the UPND against attacking the president's security detail.
Yes, it's true. Me, I belong to UPND, he belongs to PF. But he is not the cadre type, he is the intellectual type of who? PF cadre. He cannot even harm. It's not possible. I'm a parent. When he's sent for training to train as militia, I would be the first person to know. It is ridiculous for the press to be part of a scheme to perpetrate violence and portray the instigator as a victim, with a stage-managed foray into the bush in order to manipulate local and international sympathy. Meanwhile, an opposition alliance is hoodwinked into going to ICC. This is akin beating somebody and running to the police that have been beaten. For me now, the UPND and its alliance have crossed the red line. I'm sure you understand what is red line, eh? They have crossed the red line. Henceforth, I've severed my relationship with them. Yeah.
And in another development, Major Kachingwe has cautioned both the UPND and the Patriotic Front, PF, to desist from embracing political violence. He says voting should not be under intimidation but a free undertaking. President Edgar Lungu has been urged not to be selective in the fight against corruption. Civil Society for Poverty Reduction CSPR Executive Director Patrick Nshindano has urged President Lungu to be sincere and unbiased in his fight against corruption. He says the president's decision not to fire Infrastructure and Development Minister Ronald Chitotela shows that the fight against corruption is selective. Mr. Nshindano is of the view that the widespread corruption in the country undermines poverty reduction efforts. He has told Q News in an interview that corruption is a key obstacle to progress and prosperity, hurting poor people disproportionately, thus the need for the head of state not to be selective in the fight against the graft. Mr. Nshindano is urging President Edgar Lungu not to fear to be unpopular when fighting corruption, stressing that it is the poor who are suffering in the end. And the Civil Society for Poverty Reduction CSPR Executive Director has advised the minister in question to step down on moral grounds to pave way for investigations.
And it's only right to be able to pave way for very objective investigations that Honorable Chitotela is relieved of his services, just like we saw with Honorable Kavanchi during the issues to do with the social cash transfer program. So corruption should not be selective, and I think the head of state should also not fear to be unpopular when it comes to the fight against corruption. We need to ensure that citizens are at the center of this fight, because at the end of the day, what you see, those that suffer from this vice is the poor and vulnerable, because resources are basically robbed or taken away from key essential services such as health, education, water and sanitation, which most of our citizens need very dearly. So we need to ensure that we do not leave any room for corruption and indeed suspicion of corruption, and all allegations are investigated fully, and if found guilty, the individuals are prosecuted, and if found innocent, those individuals are basically redeemed. But until that is done, the institutions and of course being headed by the head of state need to facilitate for that objective investigation mechanisms. And it becomes very difficult to investigate individuals, especially government officials, when they're holding office. So it's only right that the individual is relieved, but also a call on Honorable Chitotela himself. I think it's only right that for him, and very honorable that he steps down on moral grounds to pave way for investigations, and if he's found innocent, he can take up his position later on, so that the due course of the law is.
Ron Member of Parliament and former National Democratic Congress consultant Chimba Kambwili is expected to appear before the police in Lusaka on Monday, 25th of February 2019. Last week, the Zambia police summoned PF Ron Member of Parliament to the police on 2nd February but failed to show up. According to a statement made available to Q News by NDC Media Team, Mr. Kambwili will appear at the Lusaka Division headquarters on 25th February 2019. The NDC has since called upon its supporters to remain calm. Mr. Kambwili is being summoned over the racist remarks he made on an Indian national working under the Lusaka Decongestion Project. Minister of Health Dr. Chitalu Chilufya has disclosed that government has revoked the suspension of a male nurse of Mawaya Clinic in Kalomo who is alleged to have denied services to a mother who took her child to the health facility for not speaking the local language. The Ministry of Health instituted investigations into the matter where a male nurse in Southern Province was alleged to have denied services to a mother who took her child to the health facility for not speaking the local language. Dr. Chilufya has told Q News in Lusaka that the Ministry of Health, upon concluding its thorough investigations, decided to reinstate the officer in question as there was no serious case. The Minister of Health says there is need for health officers to abide by their professional code of conduct. He says government will not take kind government workers in the health sector with a tendency of mistreating patients in the health institutions. Dr. Chilufya says there is need for staff to show courtesy to patients, but was also quick to implore citizens to equally respect the health officers. Meanwhile, Dr. Chilufya has since called for mutual relations between patients and health practitioners.
In our various facilities, let us observe two important things. One, our staff are under an obligation to observe patient rights. But equally, as clients, let us observe the rights of the staff. Let us have this mutual, respectful relationship. It is not negotiable for our staff to be courteous, to be polite, to be ethical, professional in the way they handle our patients. That is not negotiable. And we will not condone anyone who shouts at patients, anyone who is rude with patients, anyone who abuses a patient in any way. We shall not be kind to those. Equally, we beg that as our clients come into our facilities, let them show some respect to our staff. They also have some rights that we need to respect.
Panos Institute Southern Africa Executive Director Lillian Kiefer has opposed the government's decision where it is proposing the Media Association Bill, saying once in effect it will hinder the operation of the media. Recently, Information and Broadcasting Services Minister, Chief Government Spokesperson Doris Liam says that the Media Association of Zambia Bill will be ready by 31st March 2019. Ms. Leah says once this bill is enacted, a media association through which media practitioners and media owners shall regulate themselves will be established. But Ms. Kiefer says government should instead help the media to put in place a board that will enable the media to regulate itself. She has told Q News in an interview that efforts for the media to regulate itself cannot be achieved without the support from the government.
It seems to me like it's going to be a platform for government to regulate the media. And I would be uncomfortable with that because my position and the position of panels is that a good media environment is where there is self-regulation. So my appeal to the government would be if they could support the media to come up with a mode of self-regulation, and their input can be to support it to be effective, because we have made efforts through various media organizations. MISA was involved panels, then we had the Press Freedom Committee, Media Liaison Committee, and all these organizations to come up with ZAMEC, which would be a self-regulatory body, but it didn't really come to fruition. So I would appeal to the government to support media the establishment of an effective media self-regulation than to have the government regulate the media.
Still in the news, the ruling Patriotic Front, PF, has charged that the opposition United Party for National Development continues to be the most violent amongst the country's political parties. Party Deputy Media Director Antonio Mwanza has accused the UPND of using political violence to win elections, especially in their strongholds. He has told Q News that no party in Zambia can beat the record of the opposition UPND when it comes to violence. And Mr. Mwanza says assertions that the Zambia Police Service wants to eliminate UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema should come to an end forthwith. He has advised the opposition leaders to stop using alarming statements in order to win sympathy and raise international condemnation on the ruling Patriotic Front.
From practice, UPND has proven to be a very, very violent political party. They use what they call the Mapatija formula, which was birthed in Mapatija, and Mapatija formula is based on violence and tribalism. Every time we have a political elections in any perceived stronghold of UPND, it ends up in bloodbath. And also the leadership of UPND have never condemned political violence. At no single time has Mr. Hakainde Hichilema or his top leadership condemned violence. The Patriotic Front on the other side, we have been very consistent with condemning political violence and working towards ending political violence. I think Zambians must be reminded that not so long ago, PF and UPND signed a peace accord. The leadership in terms of the youths from UPND and the youths of PF signed an accord to end political violence. What happened after that? President Hakainde Hichilema rubbished that peace accord and said we will not abide by this peace accord. So it is very clear that UPND, their strategy is to use political violence to win elections. I also want to condemn in the strongest terms these tactics that are coming from Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, where he wants to use chaos and antics of making this country ungovernable in order to get public sympathy and also to attract international condemnation of the Patriotic Front. He was lying to the people of Zambia that the police wanted to eliminate him. He was lying to the people of Zambia that police were shooting live bullets at him. All those alarming statements were coming from Mr. Hakainde with one sole purpose: to raise sympathy from the public and also to raise international condemnation of the Patriotic Front.
The University of Zambia UNZA lecturer Bizek Piri says President Edgar Lungu may not be the one to blame on the political violence the country experiences during elections. Professor Piri has charged that the political violence are being witnessed as a result of the malfunctioning of the system, which does not give the head of state correct information on what is obtaining on the ground. He says that it is unfortunate that people in the system do not take time to audit how their failure to tell the truth affects democratic practices. The political science lecturer adds that political violence results in lack of participation by the citizens in governance activities, which he says breeds into unhealthy political environment for the country. Meanwhile, Professor Piri has challenged people that engage in political violence to ask themselves what type of a Zambia they want.
The commissioner of police at the top there, but you've got to at the provincial level, at the district level. Now, how much is the system linking? Who are doing what and so on and so forth? So I wouldn't entirely for me to say I blame the head of state, but how well is the system operating? Are people doing what they are supposed to do? Why should a cadre, simply because you are a cadre, think that, you have the law into your own hands. That itself is a problem. Like I said earlier on, if the people, the law enforcers, were allowed to be professional, you will not see these things. But sometimes there's that interference, because you have certain individuals who feel that, no, if they do their work, then you have a problem. And that becomes a problem. Yeah. But like I've said, the interest should be, what kind of Zambia do we want? What kind of Zambia do we want? And how do we get that Zambia?
Alliance for Community Action Executive Director Laura Miti says that the decision to abolish meal allowances will negatively affect many students. Parliament last week voted against reinstating meal allowances for students at public universities. The private member's motion, moved by Kapiri Mposhi Member of Parliament Stanley Kakubo and seconded by Milobezi MP Alfred Manduwa, who is an independent MP, received 58 votes against 81. But Ms. Miti says even though the facility has been extended to other institutions, most of the people who will benefit will be middle-income children, while the poor will be left out. She adds that the first thing that Higher Education Minister Professor Nkandluo should have done is to carry out an audit to find out who the beneficiaries are. Ms. Miti says there was no consultations that was made for government to arrive at the abolishing of meal allowances. The Alliance for Community Action Executive Director states that the only reason many Zambians have been able to rise out of poverty is because of education.
My question to Professor Luo is, are you saying that if you are born poor, no matter how smart you are, you will never get an education? Because there is no plan. You can't tell people to make a plan. They have no money. You've already said to get a bursary, you must prove vulnerability. The first thing that Professor Luo should do is carry out an audit on who has the bursary. And you will see, all the people who go to Algeria, all the people who leave this country, most of the people, my guess is over 50% should not get a bursary. Get the people who are on the bursary. It will be a different thing to say we're going to cut meal allowances from a certain kind of student. But any student who's on 100%, who achieved 100%, if you take away their meal allowance, they will not be able to go to university. So I would ask, maybe they should go to the university now, to CBU, they should go to UNZA, and see how many vulnerable young people have actually registered. And you'll find, you don't have to be a researcher to know that they will not have registered. So my worry with Professor Luo, and this government generally, is that it makes policies on the basis of themselves, their good life. Because Professor Luo said parents should contribute. I can contribute, no question. I can pay private fees. My son goes to a private university, so I can. But I also know that my house helper cannot.
Extractive Industry Transparency Alliance has challenged the government to tell the nation what it has done with its 20% shares in Kansanshi mine. Alliance Executive Director Muya Mwandawande has noted the need for Zambians to interrogate the investment government has put in within the 20% shares it has been holding for a long time now. Mr. Mwandawande says if the mining company has shown interest in investing in Zambia's 20% shares in Kansanshi mine, government should not deny them if it does not have plans for it. First Quantum Minerals Limited has offered to buy the Zambian government's 20% stake in Africa's biggest copper mine for as much as $700 million, according to two people familiar with the transaction. Vancouver-based First Quantum already owns 80% of the Kansanshi mine in Zambia's northwestern province, while state-owned ZCCM Investments Holdings PLC holds the rest. But Mr. Mwandawande has told Q News that government should tell the nation interventions it has put in place for the country to benefit from its 20% shares.
I think for me, for us as civil society, an organization that is working on good governance and natural resource management, the question we are asking is, what has government done with these 20% shares all along? So the issue here is to interrogate the kind of investment that government has put in within the 20% shares that they've had all along. So it's not, if the mining company wants to invest that 20%, they want to get that 20% and invest it productively, For us, I think we wouldn't have a problem with that, because it doesn't make sense for government to have that 20% when in fact they do not really have any ideas of how to invest in that 20%. So we are appealing to government in the event that they are saying they've rejected to offer the FQM the 20%. We want to find out from them what kind of strategies, interventions do they have for us as Zambians to realize the benefits from that 20%? Do they have any ideas of what to do?
Water Aid Zambia country representative Pamela Tsanga says the continued low funding towards the water and sanitation will negatively affect the 2025 cholera elimination plan which the country has set. Ms. Chisanga is further calling for more investment towards water and sanitation programs at household level and the country at large in order to respond effectively to water challenges some communities are currently facing. She has stressed that increased investment in water and sanitation is key to the successful implementation of the 2025 cholera elimination plan. And Ms. Chisanga says Zambia can attain a cholera-free status by 2025 if it continues to implement measures that are in accord with the World Health Organization General Assembly resolutions. Ms. Chisanga says the resolutions which Zambia presented at the World Health Organization Assembly recently have been adopted, an indication that the cholera-free status in Zambia can be achieved. She has therefore recommended the need for the country to adopt a new approach in the manner water and sanitation problems are being addressed.
We think that the plan and the targets that have been set in the plan are achievable, but for us to be able to get there even before 2030, by 2025, we will need to do quite a number of things. I think we will need to change the way that we approach some of the issues that are critical to eliminate cholera, such as water and sanitation. The kind of investment that we have seen so far going to the water and sanitation sector will not get us to eliminate cholera. We need to invest more in water and sanitation at household level, in public institutions, in public places for us to totally eliminate cholera. That's the biggest thing that we have to do. That's the biggest shift really we need to make in terms of the plan that has been developed. It's the investment that is required to be able to implement this plan. And much of the plan actually covers water, sanitation and hygiene. The other aspect that we have to consider, and I was pleased to hear the Minister of Local Government talk about decentralization and the structures at the local level. For a long time, I think the challenge that we have faced as a country is that yes, we often come up with good plans, but implementation becomes a challenge. Where it becomes a challenge is because it's at the local level where we do not have clear structures to support implementation of any program, let alone a program to eliminate cholera. So we are pleased that steps are being made to institutionalize and legalize the Ward Development Committees, which will be the vehicles that will now drive the implementation of this cholera elimination plan. So again, I think what we would emphasize and want to see is that the act that is supposed to be in place is put in place.
The Civil Society Environmental Hub National Coordinator Geoffrey Piri has called for a strengthened partnership between government and the civil society organizations in order to address environmental issues. Mr. Piri has acknowledged that civil societies are key partners in the implementation of a Smart Zambia. He told journalists in Lusaka that there is need to always assess the impact on the environment of the interments that are being done in the country in order to effectively address environmental matters. Civil Society Environmental Hub National Coordinator says that most people have little knowledge on environmental impact assessment that are usually done by investors, especially in the mining sector.
So as you have noted in our gathering, we are pushing forward the agenda that the partnership with government must be strengthened, and we are also supporting all the interventions that government is putting in place. So as the civil society organizations, we want to come together, have one voice, and be able to have a coordinated voice to assist in having smart development in the country. If you look at the development that is taking place in the country, people are not aware of the environmental impact assessments that are done. So as civil society organizations, we want to look at how informed are the people, How are they participating in these EIA hearings? And then we also want to look at the kind of investment that Zambia is bringing in. How smart is it? How environmentally friendly is it? If we look at Zambia today, Zambia is a construction site, but to a larger extent, let's look at how much are we paying attention to environmental issues. That is a big question, and that is why we are gathering here to say, can we put our heads together as government, as private sector, civil society organizations, traditional authorities, and also the communities in which we live, so that we guide this development and also we achieve sustainable development which is environmentally friendly. What we are looking at the end of the day is to have a clean and green Zambia, which is already something that is targeted, supported by our president. So it is very important that we as Zambian citizens come together and unite under our civil society organizations so that we are able to guide this development and be able to monitor what kind of development is happening. So as you have noted,
the Opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, Pemba Member of Parliament, Mutinta Mazoka, says the current Constituency Development Fund, CDF, is not enough to cater for all the challenges in Pemba district. Mrs. Mazoka says she is aware that the residents have been complaining about the poor state of the Moyo Road, which leads to the newly constructed hospital, and is working to ensure that it is rehabilitated. She has complained that the current CDF is not enough to meet the many challenges all the 10 wards are faced with in the constituency. Mrs. Mazoka has stated that she cannot use all the CDF to construct all the Moyo Township roads because the other wards will be left unattended to. She says that despite the ambulance received by World Vision for the newly constructed Moyo Hospital, the poor state of the road will affect its functions.
When we ask you for these things from the line ministries, we are given 2 answers. When the money is available, which is never available, or use your CDF. And the CDF is only 1.6 million kwacha. Do you think 1.6 million can do roads in the Pemba? Because this 1.6 should be divided into 10 parts. There are 10 wards in this constituency. I cannot use all 1.6 million kwacha to do the Moyo Road. What about the other wards? That is my problem. My problem is with the central government, which won't release money for these infrastructure development issues. That is my problem. It's a pity that we've been given this hospital by the World Vision as well as the ambulance. Now, as you rightly said, there is a seriously ill patient, and this patient needs to be transported to Toma or Monze. Look at the state of the road. Even if they put their siren, it won't help.
Tobacco farmers in the country have appealed to government to include them in the Farmer Input Support Program, FISIP. Speaking on behalf of the farmers, Benson Chala says the farmers want government to support them for only 3 years, after which they will remain independent. Mr. Chala says Zambia has the capacity to grow over 500 million kilograms of the crop, but that the country is failing to meet this potential. Meanwhile, Mr. Chala has appealed to government to take advantage of the warm relations Zambia shares with China, which is the largest importer of the tobacco to source for market in that country. Mr. Chala says China provides a big market for tobacco, which if Zambia penetrates, the welfare of local tobacco farmers will improve tremendously. And Mr. Chala has urged government to stick to its decision of not reversing statutory instruments that guide the tobacco production and marketing, adding that doing so will negatively affect farmers.
We are only asking them for 3 years. We tobacco farmers, we just want to be sponsored for 3 years. Yes. After that, we'll stand on our own. And these things, this slavery will be stopped. And the GDP in this country will go up. This country will have got the capacity of producing up to 500 million kilos. And the Zambian government has got a very good relationship with China. China is the biggest I want to give you the history. China is the biggest tobacco buying country in the world. At the moment, you see Zimbabwe, within the political and the economic challenge they're producing 300 million kilos. You look about the land we have, the natural resources and the human resource and the environment, our political and the economic, it's very conducive. We can produce up to 500 million kilos and represent even up to 30% of our GDP.
We take you back to Pemba, where residents of Pemba have expressed happiness over the newly constructed mini hospital in their district by World Vision Zambia. Some residents talked to by a QTV news crew in Southern Province say they have had challenges accessing proper medical health care services as they have to travel long distances to access health services. They have, however, appealed to government to ensure that they electrify the hospital so that it is fully functional, as some machinery require electricity to function. They have also appealed to government to construct the road leading to the hospital as it is in a bad state. World Vision has constructed a first ever mini hospital called Moyo Mini Hospital in Moyo village of Pemba district in Southern Province at a cost of over 8,121,000 kwacha. Martha Katambi was in Southern Province and brings us this report.
Moyo Village is a village situated in Pemba district of Southern Province. Being more than 50 kilometers from Choma, the district has had many challenges such as accessing proper healthcare services. Many people are forced to walk long distances to access medical health care, which is very unfortunate, especially for the expectant mothers and children. But this will now be a thing of the past because now World Vision has constructed a first ever mini hospital called Moyo Mini Hospital in Moyo village of Pemba district. The hospital has now been handed over to government and the community. John Hayes is World Vision Zambia country director.
The rate of under 5 child deaths goes down dramatically because of this place.
Eno tuyera kuti imyera bana bahwanda ibalanyala ilipa iliyansi ilukurwa nyewe yabo luye ansi maningi kamboga mayage ai.
And aligned with government plans, we hope that the new infection rate of HIV drops to 0 in the coming years.
Alimu amagani abu aliwasigali lege tulayera kuti imyera ilibora ibuyamuba ibucheshanyewe mane ugabe tajibwe.
And we hope that through our vitamin A distribution and deworming tablets that we provide through Child Health Week, that those diseases also are eliminated.
Health Minister Dr. Chitalu Chilufya received the hospital on behalf of government with an assurance to electrify the hospital before the end of 2019.
What we are doing here today is part of the broad agenda of the PF government under His Excellency Mr. Edgar Chagolungu to deliver development to all parts of the country by developing a healthy human capital to drive the socio-economic development agenda.
Icho chitajalo obuno chakusola ibuberega ototuonto byo itwamizezo iyangena ngene minji maningi murumende iyapie kuyenderega aba edigatagwa lungo.
We are building health systems that are resilient enough to assure health for all using primary health care.
Tuyabuyana ibage buyaya ibusola ibusumpula inkaniyanseba.
The residents were filled with joy with this development brought to their district, but however had an appeal to make.
Kamboga kuti jatujeira misinzo kamba kuti mazuva akusana twali kuhwa kamboga misinzo ukubura chakuendera ari mwana uchibonwa chakuendera road kutupa kuhwita munzira mabams
twarumba kutwetera chibhadhera kwa Moyo mazuva akamatwari chisipenzi chakuenda kuchibhadhera chipati kapati kuti pamatumbu pari kuhwa antumbuyira akamboka kuramba kusena kwakuinka kuchibhadhera ino chonga chipate chikweti wachibhadhera apapo ndeza watukuwa
kambo twari kuenda misinzo milaho ikuzwa mbuli wa Moyo kunze ikuyinka kumonze te makilomita manji kambo kabo bantu banji bari kutkeni bali kuhwa kachikonya kugwahika no twarumba muzezo mpati kutwetera hospital koti bantu bari wayakuwa nkambuga misinzo baratikeni barareka but chotulomba chipati ni road.
It is evident that with this development brought to Pemba district by World Vision, the lives of the people of Pemba will change for the better. Martha Katambi, reporting for QTV News.
Thank you so much, Martha, for that report from Southern Province, Pemba District. Kabata Ward 6 Councillor Longa Chipoboka has implored vegetable street vendors in his ward to go back to the vegetable shed and occupy empty stores. Councillor Chipoboka has observed that there are many empty trading stores in the vegetable shed at Kabata Main Market and has wondered why people are opting to trade along the streets. Speaking when he led residents of his ward in the monthly cleaning exercise and inspections of public places to monitor compliance and participation on Saturday, Councillor Chipoboka says the market offers a much cleaner environment for trade than the streets. He says, contrary to assertions by the marketeers that there are no trading spaces in markets, hence trading in the streets, the scenario of empty trading stores in the markets is common in all markets in Lusaka. Meanwhile, Councillor Chipoboka has disclosed that Lusaka Mayor Mao Sampam will on 3rd March 2019 grace the Keep Kabata Clean, Green and Healthy sensitization campaign in Livala Stage 4B, during which the best maintained house would be rewarded. The civic leader has since urged all residents of his ward to attend the sensitization day, which will focus on the importance of waste management and general cleanliness. And finally, in our news, Advocacy Against Child Abuse and Gender-Based Violence Executive Director Bilion Chola says sensitization about the importance of education is also key to fighting early marriages. Mr. Chola says poverty has made many to marry at early ages with the hope to change their financial situation. He adds that some parents complained that some of their children decided to elope and marry with the hope to escape the poverty in their homes. He states that because some feel that when they get married at early age, they will not be affected by poverty. He further states that it is important to sensitize both parents and the children about the importance of getting a good education, as they will be able to financially take care of themselves.
I think on child marriages, we did go flat out and sensitize people, but we've seen that it is still, the practice is still there. So we want to intensify our sensitization programs in child marriages, because a number of parents came out to complain that sometimes it's not them that will decide to marry off a child, but it's the child that will decide to maybe elope with another child. So we want to make sure that we speak to each and every parent, we speak to children so that we make them understand the importance of education, because some feel when they get married at an early age, then they will stay away from the poverty that may be in their home. So we want to make sure that we educate them that education is a lasting solution to a good life than marriage, because when they get married at an early age, sometimes they get to be abused and they've got no way out. So we want to make sure that we sensitize them and just tell them the value of education. So we will be so much sensitizing children on child abuse and early marriages. So
That's all we had for you in our news, but before we go, every look at stories making headlines. UPND President Hakainde Hichilema's Special Advisor Major Richard Kachingwe has resigned from the opposition political party. President Edgar Lungu has been urged to be selective in the fight, not to be selective in the fight against corruption. And Ron Member of Parliament and former National Democratic Congress consultant Chimba Kambwili is expected to appear before the police in Lusaka on Monday, 25th February 2019. Ends the news.